Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another live stream. My name is Kat Huang. I'm a teaching artist here at Art Prof, and I'm joined today by fellow teaching artist, Jordan McCracken-Foster. Today, we are doing color schemes for character designs in Procreate. Now, remember, this is a draw along, and you can feel free to draw along with us in any media you prefer. We're using Procreate, but you can use whatever media you prefer. And remember, if you want to nerd out about art, Art Prof has everything you need from tutorials to critiques to a community of fellow art nerds. So let's just get started coloring these character designs. Jordan, do you want to explain a little bit more about what we're doing?
Yeah, so we're taking some line art that we've done previously, and we're just gonna have fun messing with colors with them. And so I'm drawing one of my original characters, and we're gonna see what different color schemes we could put him in, like trying out different color for clothing and maybe different lighting scenarios, all that fun stuff.
Hmm. Yeah. So, Jordan, you already have an established color scheme for your character, I see. How did you go about choosing that color scheme?
A lot of it had to do with just the story I was telling. Um, I wanted him specifically to be wearing blue because it's associated with the world that he lives in. And so I just thought, you know what, he's got to be wearing blue, and then everything else is just gonna have to derive directly from that. So, I made sure that that was the main accent, and then I put the reds and the grays and all that stuff, and I just played around with it just to see what worked. But yeah, what about you? What about your character? How'd you decide, or how are you going to decide? Because have you colored him before?
I have colored him before, and actually what's funny is that he's also a blue color scheme like your character. But I have an actually pretty interesting story behind my character's color scheme. So I based this character off of this boy I went to middle school with, and he always wore Sharks merchandise. For anyone who knows Sharks, it's like a hockey team, and I don't know, I think their merch is really iconic with like the bright blue and the blacks and stuff like that. But anyways, that boy would also always wear these short cargo shorts, and he was a pretty short guy. So that's who I based my character off of, and because of that reason, I'm adamant that my character has to also wear blue.
I love that backstory. That's so cool.
Yeah.
So what are you gonna do for the different colors? Are you gonna do them all the same? Like all the same color clothing, or is it how are you deciding this?
So for the different characters, you mean? I mean the different images?
Yes.
So I have a bunch of these drawings of my character. And by the way, his name is Vince, so I'll call him Vince from now on.
Oh yeah, because I didn't know, guys. We talked earlier, and I was like, and Kat just said, "This is Vince." I was like, "Who is what?" I was like, "I had no idea that was Vince all this time."
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't know. I didn't tell you his name, but yes, he has a name. It's Vince. So I have all these drawings of Vince, and as you can see, he has different moods. Like here's he's happy, and then here he's kind of flustered, and then there's another one where he looks kind of dejected. So I think that I will change the colors according to the mood of each of these drawings. So, but first I'm going to do a base color, like the natural like skin color, blue color of his coat, etc. for each of them. And then I'm going to manipulate the colors to suit the mood for each image.
Gotcha.
Cool. Our prof says, Kat, can you explain why you chose that specific blue? Why that value, that saturation? Well, I wanted it to be a navy blue, and I know that Sharks merchandise is a different kind of blue, but I'm not basing this off of Sharks merchandise. But I like navy blue. I just think it's a comfortable kind of blue. It doesn't like hurt your eyes when you look at it. Like in Jordan's case, he has this like really bright blue in his character because his character has to do with light and is blue colored, so that makes sense. But Vince does not have to do with light, really. Does not fight with light like Jordan's character does. So that's why I chose this sort of like navy blue. I don't know. I just like the color.
Jordan, I finally saw Miles Morales a couple of days ago, and it was gorgeous. Yes, We got another one. We got another convert. I love it. Though 315 Bird, your life will never be the same again. I guarantee it. The movie's just stunning in every way, shape, and form. Amazing.
Oh, shoot. Some of my lines aren't closed, so I can't just drag the colors in. See, watch. I dragged it into the sleeve, and then because there's like an opening there, it just colored everything blue.
Maria says, I think this is the first time I saw this style of drawing from Kat. I liked it. It gives me vibes of cartoons I grew up watching.
Oh, thank you, Maria. Actually, this is the style I normally draw in, but I don't know, I just haven't like brought it onto Art Prop just yet because mostly it takes I'm a perfectionist, and when I draw in this style, I'm like I have to spend a lot of time to make sure it's perfect. So it doesn't usually go well in a live stream because live streams are a lot quicker.
Neil says, the fill paint bucket tool that I have in my painting program is weird, so it's a bit hard for me to fill in flat colors fastly. There's always a jaggy white border near the black lines. Any tips? Okay, so Neil, it depends on if you're using Photoshop or Procreate. I can show you how to do it in Procreate really quickly. So what I've done here is I start out with the line layer, and I set it to reference. So if you just tap on it on this layer, you'll see a list come up and references on the bottom. And then what that means is that every color that you pull in and drag it in, it will obey whatever those lines are on that reference layer. And so that's how Kat and I have been able to go zoom, 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 like that really quickly. And also I recommend doing the colors on a separate layer, because one time I didn't do that and life wasn't very fun for a while because I had to figure out how to undo everything. So don't make that mistake.
The instant you said that, Jordan, I immediately went to go check my layers to see if my colors were on a separate layer.
And were they?
Yes, they were.
Okay,
Thank you.
Good.
Oh, shoot.
This is honestly like one of the most soothing parts for me when it comes to coloring and Procreate, because it's simply just, throw in the paint bucket tool, and it's so nice.
Mm. Oh, shoot. Okay, I'm still not used to Procreate. I like selected a section and then I exited out and I lost that selection.
Oh, you know what? It's all a learning growth process.
Yeah.
Nikolai, I feel like I have a lot of similar clothes to Jordan's character, so they always look familiar to me. Yeah, I based this character off of like 1980s hip hop culture, like a b-boy, and I started doing live research from old school rappers and like movies like and dancers like a Boogaloo Shrimp and stuff like that. And that's how Javen, my character, came to be. So yeah.
Jordan, how did you choose the name for your character?
So what I did was I went on babynames.com. I do that all the time. It might sound a little weird, but it's really helpful because what other place can you have a catalog of all of these names? And I picked a name that I thought would fit well with the stories, and that just sounded cool. That sounded like a name from this world. And so yeah, I picked Javen because it had to do with the story.
Mm.
Amars Joseph says, "Don't laugh, but I turned my character into a tapestry design. My sister showed me how to take my drawing and knit them, so I'm thinking about making a comic book style knit tapestry."
Whoa.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I'm not laughing at that. That's so awesome. I would love to see it.
I don't know why I would laugh at that. That's so freaking cool.
But actually, the beginnings of comics, no one really knows when it began because a lot of people were already doing sequential visual art in tapestries, in cave paintings, etc., for like as long as humans have existed, pretty much. So we're not really sure where comics started because comics were kind of always there, I guess
that makes sense, yeah. So So I guess it would be back when cave paintings, you said?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Actually, one of the examples I usually pull up when I teach my comics class about when did comics start, we don't know. The one example I pull up is always the Bayeux tapestry, which is spelled Bayeux. And it tells a story in the tapestry form. So whoever had that comment, actually, you wouldn't be the first to have a comic in tapestry form, but I think you would be one of the very few modern artists to do that nowadays if you follow through with that. Neil says, Kat, the inking for your character is done traditionally, right? Thank you for asking, Neil. Yes, it is done traditionally with just pen and ink and Bristol paper, and then I scan it in.
Do you find that that decision like something you regret sometimes? Like, if you make a mistake that you can't really fix? Does that ever happen?
Not so much. I guess it's because I've had enough pencil mileage with the pen and ink, so I should say ink mileage. So I've drawn enough with pen and ink that I feel comfortable with it. And yeah, of course, I still mess up when I use pen and ink, but there are ways to sort of correct your mistake, such as weaving in your mistake into your drawing. Like, I meant to do that, just color the whole thing black. Or you take whitewash and you sort of just white out the mistakes that you've made. I think also my practice is normally comics in reproduction. Like, you don't usually see the original artwork. So even if my original artwork has mistakes and has like gouache cover-ups and everything, not a lot of people are going to see that.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. I always was intimidated by inking traditionally for some reason. Like I focus so much on line work just like you do, but I don't know, there's something about just the finality of inking traditionally just scares me I'm like, what if I just knock it over, knock this over and I just ruin the whole thing.
Yeah, I get that fear, of course. I mean, I still have that fear, but the more you're exposed to it, the less it intimidates you. And I just think the payoff for traditional inking, like I love the line weight when I do traditional inking, and it takes actually a lot less time for me to do than it is for me to do digital. Salvium says, super excited to be here. Want to learn how I can tell a story with color using my art. Well, thank you for joining, Salvium. We will try our best to do that.
What do you think would be a good first tip for someone who's trying to do, figure out storytelling and with color in their work?
Well, I would sort of take a page from your book, Jordan, about color and what do you call it? Like mood and color or something like that? Color language?
Psychology of color?
Yeah, psychology of color, something like that. So usually when you have something dark blue, then it's like a cool scene and maybe it could be sad or just calm or something like that. But if you have a bright red scene, then the mood might be intense or angry or something like that. So just like having a very basic understanding of the psychology of color in this case would be the first start, and then trying to apply that color psychology to your artwork.
Yeah, a lot of things. The thing with colors, there's so many things about that are relative, but learning those principles, getting the key foundation, that's so important, and learning how to manipulate it to your advantage. We have a comment from Mayahika Patagnan. Hi, Kat. What kind of pens and inks would you recommend for traditional inking for beginners?
For beginners, when I began inking, I just like used the same stuff I use now. So I'll just tell you the stuff I use now. I use a G-nib pen. So that's basically the pen nib that manga artists use to ink. And for ink, I just use Higgins Black Magic ink. But I heard that the ink brand I always say Dr. Phil, and it's never Dr. Phil. That's a celebrity.
That would be epic. I would love to see his face on like a little $3.99 box of,
Yeah. Wait, let me Google this really fast. It's like or something.
I'm not gonna get that out of my head. I'm gonna be looking for Dr. Phil next time I go to Blick.
No, it's not. Oh, it's called Dr. P.H. Martin. That's a more expensive ink brand, but I've heard that it's also good.
It's less exciting than Dr. Phil, though. I'm never gonna let go of that.
Rachel says, Kat, is scanning in traditional line art to put it in digital space very difficult, or does it get easier with practice? Ooh, okay. So I think it does get easier with practice, but it's basically a process. Like you eventually just get used to the process. Dang it. Hold on. Speaking of which, I'm still not used to Procreate. But anyways, eventually you start to just get a rhythm. Like you scan, you save, you pull it into Photoshop, you edit it so it's like stark black and white. So yes, I would say it does get easier with time. You just have to find your own process. I hope that answered the question, Rachel.
Darian, how do you come up with the right color scheme for your characters? There's a lot of ways you can do it. And, I will say this, no one color scheme is going to work for every character. Like Samurai Jack, for example, he's wearing like a white robe. He doesn't have any real color to him. But someone like, I don't know, maybe like Buttercup from the Powerpuff Girls, she's got green and black. So I would say first figure out the world of your story. Like, where is it taking place? Is it a samurai? Is it a little girl with superpowers? Is it a chef? Is it, I think last time I was on a stream, I used the example of Harry Potter as a cop. Like figure out what world you're building, and then using the psychology of color. Like for example, a lot of characters will use red a lot of artists will use red to express that their character is powerful or angry or rebellious or maybe even evil, and thinking about it on that lens. So yeah, that's where I would start. Oh, real quick, guys, I want to show something about how I get this glow effect for my characters. So what I will do is I will duplicate the layer. So all the glowing parts I put on a separate layer, and then I'll duplicate that. And then what I'll do is I will start to blur it. So I'll do adjustments, Gaussian blur, and then I will slide it. Ooh. And you can see that, they're starting to look a little like a little glow there. And if you duplicate that layer enough times, then it starts looking really, really cool. Yeah, put on a dark background. Now it's really popping out. So yeah, quick little tip for y'all. Mm-hmm. Jordan, can we see you do an alternative color scheme for your character? Yes, we are going to do that. I just had to get the regular colors first because it's going to be much easier for me to do it now with all the colors done already. So let's see how we're going to do this. Put this in one group. Okay. What color should I have the accent be, you think?
What do you mean by accent? Do you mean
these bright blues? The cyan blue. If I were to change that, starting with that.
I want to challenge you to make it the complete opposite of blue, which is orange.
Okay, let's try orange. Let's see. First things first. Just use my hue slider over here. Orange. Okay, there we go. Saturate a bit more. It's so interesting because when I first chose the color or his skin color, I made it slightly orange so that the blue and the orange would naturally complement each other. So now you're like, make it orange. I'm like, dang, I might need to change his skin color a little bit too. So
I mean, that just goes to show that all colors are relatable to each other. Like they relate to one another like people do. So, an orange highlight on Javen's jacket probably won't do well on like the orangey tone of his skin, right? So you do have to like switch up colors sometimes.
Yeah. like that just doesn't. It's not popping as much. So let's see. Maybe he's not human anymore. Maybe I'll change everything about him. Let's see. Colors.
Oh, shoot.
Oop, that's not what I want. Here, you know what I'll do? I will make this smaller so that we can see a couple of examples at the same time. It might be easier.
Oh my gosh. Okay, this is taking forever, but I'm almost done.
You got this, Cat. You'll be all right.
Oh gosh. Just as you said that the orange of Javen's jacket clashed with Javen's skin, I realized that the yellow of the pants Vince is wearing is too similar in value and tone to his skin, so it looks like he's like not really wearing pants.
Oh, that's the worst.
Gotta change it. Okay, I'm gonna change it.
I'm not even sure how to say this name. Is it we? Oh man. Wait, no.
Wait. Oui, no, no, no.
Oh, it's French. Okay, got it. See, you should have read that first. Have you guys played around with the gradient maps on Procreate? They can be really fun. Oh, that's a great idea. This would be a great time to test that out.
Oh, I
Yes.
don't know what that is. Jordan, teach it to me.
Gradient. So, okay, I gotta remember where they are. So, here, let me do it on my initial character just to see how it all looks. Give me 1 second. So I really haven't played around with this, but I've heard about it. So let's see. So it's in adjustments in gradient map, and I'll just do layer. Wait, that is not the right layer. Is it? Oh, I guess I shrunk that one. Okay, let's do this. Oh, that's so epic. Okay, so how does this work? Oh, I see. So there's a gradient library underneath at the bottom of my screen. And I could just play with stuff. Oh, this is so cool. Like, this would be really good for like a night scene. And it looks like I can adjust things like this. And I can pick colors. Oh, this is so fun.
Mhm.
I'm sorry. I'm just talking to myself at this point.
Okay.
I feel like I opened a new toy.
Our prof says, I'm so confused, Jordan. What is happening?
Okay, so okay, a gradient. Okay, so everyone knows what a gradient is, right? Like when you shift from one color to another by like blending. So you'll see like a gradient in the sky during the sunset. It might go from yellow to pink to blue the higher you go. You can apply that to an image, and it's called a gradient map. And you're basically doing the same thing, except you yourself are picking the colors. And so you could have it be anything you want. Apparently, honestly, I'm still playing around with that. I don't exactly know how this is going to turn out, but it's really cool. There was something else, Chromatic Aberration, I think, that I wanted to try. Oh, that's so cool. It's got that screen. This might work for you, Kat,
Whoa.
like screen printing errors,
Yeah.
It's like Spider-Verse-y. It's awesome.
Our prof says, so is this basically like if you want your character to be in a night scene?
I guess so. I think it just depends on the look. I mean, I'm still really trying to figure this out. You could use it for a night scene or a day scene or something like that, but yeah, I don't know. I'm just playing around. Like you guys are. I'm exploring this for the very first time, so I don't even know how this will work.
Okay, I am so close to being able to manipulate colors. All right, nice.
Oh my gosh!
Wow,
This is so cool.
that's cool. Oh my gosh. It also kind of looks like when you had it there previously, Javen had like a 5 o'clock shadow.
Oh my gosh. I could do that. I could age him up. He's supposed to be 15. I can make him like 22.
Oh my gosh. Rachel says, I'm playing with a gradient map too. It's lots of fun.
Oh my goodness. I love this. Can I change the color? Like perspective? What does this do? Ooh.
Okay, so I have the basic colors for Vince down for each of these images of him. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to select one of him, one of the colors, and cut and paste. So now this is in a different layer. You see that? It's in a different layer. And I'm going to manipulate this color so it's a happy color. I'm going to try out the color balance tool for the first time in Procreate. I use this tool all the time in Photoshop, but I don't normally use it in Procreate, so I'm going to like try it out.
Man, I wish I had more of my characters here. I would totally play with this more. I only have one character prepared right now. Wow, this is crazy.
I don't like this.
This could be a really sick poster.
Oh, no says gradient maps are really cool on pieces with lots of strong and differing values, but flat colors can be really cool too.
I believe it. I believe it all. This is the coolest thing ever, and I can't believe I haven't tried this out. I feel embarrassed for myself.
Sorry.
Bleepkin says, looks like those effects when the character is using his power. Love it. Yeah. Oh, that could be cool too. I don't know. There's so many options now. I just don't even know what to do. Oh, I forgot to add actual shadows to him. Maybe hold on. Let me go and add that. Just do this really quickly. Because it doesn't make sense for him to not have any sort of shadows. Okay, so let's do. It's like the slowest stage, but also one most important to me is getting the right shadows. Oh, Art Prof is asking a question. Kat, how are you deciding what colors you think will work or not?
So I'm just trying to see what looks good. I know that's like such a general statement, but you know, Vince's color scheme is like his skin is like a little bit of a darker brown, and his shirt, his coat is a navy blue. So even though I'm manipulating it to be warmer and stuff, I still want to stay kind of loyal to like his original skin tone and also his jacket color. So this isn't really what I'm going for right now. I'm still like sort of manipulating it to see what will work. I want it to be warmer, but the problem is Vince's jacket is such a cool color that to turn it warm, it will turn purple essentially. So I'm still playing around with it. Just like bear with me right now.
Yeah, that's one thing about colors. Like, it's almost hard to teach in some ways because it's like a lot of it is just playing around. It's sort of like, how do you design a character? It's like, you gotta play around. You gotta figure out what your options are. You know?
Yeah, a lot of it's also just like also intuition. And the more you do it, the better you'll get at it.
Mm-hmm.
Maria says, Jordan is so happy. It's so cute to see people happy over new art tools. Makes me feel validated.
I am very happy. You know, I was watching this video not that long ago. It was super cute. It was this little girl. She had to be like maybe 3, and her parents were trying to prank her. And so they gave her a banana for Christmas, and they wrapped it in everything. And she opens it, and she's freaking out. She's like, oh my gosh, a banana! And she's so happy about it. She's like, Mom, open it, open it. She starts eating. She's kicking her feet. It's the most adorable thing. Sometimes the simple things that make people happy, you know? No. Starting to get it now. For both of you, what are your favorite color combinations to use in pieces? You want to go first?
Yeah, I love blue and orange. Those are like that's my favorite complementary color scheme, and I use it all the time. In fact, there's actually an art prof video talking about complementary color schemes. And you know what? In this preview image right now, that's blue and orange. That's my favorite complementary color scheme right there.
Yeah, I think my favorite, I like purple a lot. Purple's my favorite color. So I'm probably going to say like purple and yellow, purple and gold. And especially when it's done right, it just, I don't know, something about it just gets me, just gets me. But I do know that blue and orange is like the most popular. And yeah, actually, a friend of mine had a theory that every artist has a particular complementary color scheme that they run with for most of their projects. So that question actually kind of fits in with her hypothesis.
Oh my gosh. As much as I love the blue and orange color scheme, I recognize that there's beauty in other colors too. And there was this one film I was watching. I cannot remember the name right now. Maybe somebody can help me in the chat. But basically, it's all about owls, and they're all animated. And it was not a very good film. But for the entire film, like, it's very beautiful, except for the fact that they kept using the blue and orange color scheme. And like once or twice is great, but when you use it for a whole film, you're like, again, like, can you think of some other color scheme, please?
That's fair. Yeah, I would get sick of it too. You know what movie I really like that doesn't change from their color scheme and it bothers me? It's The Matrix.
Oh my gosh, The Matrix. But I don't know. See, The Matrix, it kind of makes sense to me because it's such a bleak world that a lot of color change would be very shocking, right? I don't think it would actually suit the film.
Oh, I didn't say I don't think it makes sense. I said I don't like it. Oh. It just looks like an overlay of some really disgusting like substances or something just placed over the whole film. And I'm like, after an hour and a half, kind of over it. You're lucky the movie. It's like you guys are lucky the movie is so interesting and so intriguing because I might get sick of that like real quick.
That's true. It's like not a very artsy film, I guess. But you know what, Jordan? You should actually watch The Animatrix because that's a prequel to The Matrix and it's all a bunch of animated shorts. And they're a lot more visually appealing.
I've seen a few of them, but it's been a long time. So yeah, I need to go check that out again.
Neil says, my least favorite color scheme is red and green. I just can't work it together in a way that doesn't look like Christmas. Oh my gosh. I agree, Neil. I think red and green is also a really hard color scheme to work with. But usually what I do is sort of tweak it just a bit so that the red is sort of like pink or maybe brownish. And the green is maybe not a chartreuse green. It could be a darker green. Let me find another green. Like maybe it could be this color green. Oh, it's kind of light. I don't know, that color green. Not direct, bright red and green. That's very indicative of Christmas. Just like take the main red and green and just sort of like change it so it's like related to red and green, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's actually, I'm so glad you said that because that's something that I struggled with realizing for a long time because I was like, oh, I need these two colors, but how does it work? And someone suggested, hey, try shifting it to a orangish red or a more pink red or a more purplish red or whatever the case is. And that tends to solve a lot of problems. And I actually remember reading in a book called Color and Light by James Gurney. He said that because green is the most restful color to the eye, that's also very difficult to paint with. So he's like, anytime you use green, you should shift it towards either a blue or a yellow, simply because science.
Oh my gosh, that red is so bright. I don't want to use that. Nope.
Some person says purple goes everywhere. It's cool and warm at the same time.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
true. That's true. Actually, whenever I do night scenes, I actually start with a purple background.
Okay. That's still so bright. Oh my gosh. No, that could work. I don't know. I'm gonna play with it.
Here we go. Add some shadows. Put this on multiply. All right.
Art Prof says, Jordan, why are you just painting shadows right now?
I first off, I think it just adds some dimension, cool dimension to the character when you can do stuff like that. And in this scenario, since we're playing with color, color can also be shown very well in the shadows. Like one thing I like to do is actually saturate my shadows a little bit so that it feels brighter, but it still feels like a shadow. So it's just another little tool for me to continue playing with color and exploring things. It's like just that already adds a layer of depth that it wasn't there before. Let's see if I think. And then you can change the color of the shadow in every scenario. So let's see. And I can make that like a reddish, or I want to make it like a sickly green color. That might not come off as strong, but play around with stuff. Okay, now I can get back to actually coloring this properly. So let's try this. What are you doing for yours? What are you thinking right now?
For my character right now. I'm trying to give it like a dramatic light and shadow effect. But what's interesting is that this style is so cartoonish that it's kind of hard to find the facial planes for where light lands on the face. But I'm just like basing it off of real faces I've seen before.
Oh, okay. Our prof is asking, Kat, is your character in bright direct sunlight?
No, I feel like this is very neon. Like this is not natural light right here. It's like there's a, hold on a sec. There's a very clear light direction and it's coming from the side. Maybe this could be sunset actually, because if I made it a little less extreme, it could feel more natural.
I was trying to see what this would look like in a more like slightly neon, or not neon, what am I saying? Noir is what I meant to say. Noir kind of world. I just watched a really old movie, the Maltese Falcon with Humphrey Bogart from 1941. It's all black and white. And I was like, I wonder how this would feel in that kind of chiaroscuro vibe. I don't know. Just trying it out.
Our prof says, Jordan, put your character in the Matrix.
I feel like there will be some copyright issues with that somewhere down the line. I don't want to get sued. I don't have as much money as Warner Brothers does.
Oh man. Okay, so after making this color scheme, it feels like Vince is going crazy. It does not feel like he's happy.
Yeah. There's something about he's like, I got a great idea, but it's one of those like psychotic ideas where it's like they're gonna go jump off of something, you know?
Oh god, okay. Well, it's a cool color scheme, but you know, it's not gonna fly. I have to change it a little bit. You know what I think it is? I think it's the direct light. Did you see that? The instant I added the direct light, he looks like way crazier.
Oh yeah, but you know, I also love the saturation that you're getting when you do that though.
I know, I like it too, but you see, even though the color scheme is cool, I can use this for another mood. I don't necessarily want him to be crazy. I wanted him to be happy, but this color scheme isn't showing that.
Fair enough. That makes sense.
I think it's because like I tried to manipulate the colors to be warmer, because usually people are like, oh, happiness equals warm colors like reds and oranges and yellows, joyful colors. But Vince's original colors were so cool. Like even his skin tone is kind of a cool brown.
Mm-hmm.
That manipulating it to be more warm just made the blues into purples and the skin to like a yellowish color, which I'm not really a fan of.
So you know that you're never going to put your character in this scenario unless you're going for a very, very specific vibe to make it
Yeah,
creepy.
I don't like that. We're gonna get rid of the direct light and we're gonna try again with another Vince. I'm gonna do the sad Vince. Oh gosh.
I'm kind of liking how this looks, actually. Oh shoot, I forgot to color his shoes. What was I thinking? Whoops. How could I? It's so silly. Let's fix that right now. Guess it's in both versions. Okay. I really like that chromatic aberration thing. That was like the coolest thing. That made my day, like honestly. I want to keep trying with it because it feels so like it feels so futuristic, you know? Just think about that. Just love it. Teresia A, can you please explain your method of creating shadows, Jordan? Thank you. Oh, why certainly. That's probably, I think I saw that name on here. Anyway, sure. Let me back up a little bit, and let's get just to start with something that's a little easier to look at.
Seven Angelic says it has the look of mischief and madness, Kat. Yeah, it does. I'm gonna go back to it after I do sad Vince because I feel like sad Vince will be a lot easier to do.
Okay, so my method for creating shadows is actually pretty simple. It's we've done streams on lighting and direction, stuff like that, and I think about it the exact same way. So let's say I have let's say the light is coming from this top right corner, right? So that means everything facing this top edge should primarily be in light and everything on the back should be in shadow. And so then I just make little decisions based on that, like, okay, the light's probably hitting here, so I don't have to shade that in. The light is probably hitting this part of the leg, whereas the form, as it's shifting, will probably be blocked. This little area here will probably not see that light. Whenever I get to an area that has like a crease, like in this like this arm right here, then I'm just kind of having fun. It's not really super important, but as long as you just think about where is the light coming from, that's the most important thing I can say for creating shadows for anything. And if you need a reference, what I used to do, I actually would grab like an action figure or something and put a light next to it, and so I could figure out what lighting scenarios feel more realistic. Hope that answers the question.
Bleepkin says, do you like to play with textures when drawing characters? Yes, but usually when I draw characters in pen and ink, I do try to like consider the texture of their clothing and stuff like that. But then when it also comes to digital coloring, I do also like to play with just like texturing my colors. So one way to do that is actually finding a texture and scanning it in. Like maybe you have the texture of a cotton cloth. You scan that in and then add it as an overlay layer in your image so that sort of that texture of the cotton can come through onto your colors. So there are like different ways of playing with texture. I'm not sure if you mean like the texture drawing wise or if you mean texture added digitally. But yes, I do like playing with either of those. What about you, Jordan? Do you like to play with texture?
Not so much. I generally only do texture when I'm worried about painting. If I'm doing something that's like a background, like the master copy video or stream I did with Deepti last week, something like that, I'll focus more on it. But otherwise, I think so in an animation point of view, and texture isn't really something that comes to mind so much. The only time I might not do something like that is if it's like a metal or something shiny like gold or platinum, and then I could play with it. Yeah.
Private account says, how do you decide on what canvas size to use? What would you use for max quality and layers? Usually I use Photoshop, so I just use really enormous canvas sizes. So I always do 600 DPI, and the inches, I mean, I usually measure by inches, not pixels. Sue me, I don't know. But I usually just go with like Bristol paper size or printer paper size when doing the canvas. And then I just like crop and make it bigger as I need it to be. But the important thing for mine is I always make it 600 DPI so that it is high quality. What about you, Jordan?
I do it at 300 DPI because my computer needs to survive. So, and 300 is like the minimum required for if you ever want to print it. Generally, I never print my stuff though, so I don't really worry about that too much. But yeah, and generally as far as canvas size, I'll work on like a legal size, which is 8.5 by 14, or tabloid size, which is 11 by 17.
Usually, okay, wait, I'm gonna show this again, but okay, so oh my gosh, see, Sad Vince was so much easier to do, just like the blues, because he's already a cool colored person, that making it even cooler was just an easy task. But anyways, as you can see, I have my shadows and my lights on separate layers. And normally I would keep them on separate layers, but since I'm using Procreate and the number of layers is limited, I'm just going to merge them all.
Now, Jordan, I'm loving the color vibe. Thank you. I'm so glad you like it. And you know, it's funny. I just realized I completely forgot to do like the yellow version that Cal was asking for, or the orange version that Cal was asking for like 30 minutes ago. It's like, oh shoot, I should probably do that.
No worries. It's up to you.
Well, I'm kind of curious too. So gotta make good on that.
Orange Cat Spirit says, have any of y'all did monochromatic that wasn't black and white/black and gray? Yeah, I actually have. I'm trying to color my comics, and to make everything an individual color is too much work. So usually I would just like paint a whole person just purple and then add some shadows and highlights. Actually, I can try doing that now. I'm going to change Happy Vince to be monochromatic.
Oh, snap. Yeah, let's see how this goes. Ooh, can make him the Hulk.
Tarisha says, what layer setting are you using that makes the gray adjust to each color as a shadow? So I'm using the multiply layer, and it wasn't a gray, it was actually a blue. So I can't show it now, but I'll show in a new layer. So that's my new layer, right? I will change it to multiply, and then I will use a blue. And when I color something in, like I'm going to color the bottom of his nose there, that'll look like that. But I will also adjust the opacity so it's a little lighter. There we go. And now it looks like a ridiculously huge shadow under his nose. So that is the setting I use to make a shadow. Okay, I'm gonna have to change him to be monochromatic. I'm gonna change him to be orange.
Darian, how did you get so good with character design and finding your own style? Is that direct? I'm not sure who that's directed to. Do you want to answer that first, Kat?
Finding my own style. I don't know. My friends often joke with me that as I drew their eyes closer and closer together until they touched, and then I hit upon something. And that's just how I draw my characters now, with their eyes touching. But another thing I did was draw the people around me and just draw observational drawing when I saw people walking down the street or anything like that. Because by seeing different people, you start to sort of draw different people, and then you have good character designs come from that. As for finding your own style, it's just we actually have a video of that on our prof called How Do You Find Your Own Art Style? And to summarize that video, your style is just how you draw. Like the more you draw, you're an individual person. The more the drawings will just like look like how you would naturally want to draw them. Do you want to answer the question too, Jordan?
Yeah. So the way I think about it is style is something that generally oftentimes doesn't really come from just thinking about it too much. Oftentimes I think people will just draw, like Kat said, the way that they like, or they're inspired by certain artists and they want to imitate them in some way. And so the way that I developed the look that I have is I studied my favorite artists, Phil Barassa, LaShawn Thomas, some teachers that I had, Avatar, The Last Airbender, The Boondocks, and I put it all together and added my own spin on it. And that's how I created the look that I have. And you know, some of it just kind of formed naturally. Other things I had to think about, like shape language and stuff. But to be honest, I wouldn't worry about that too much right now, especially if you're just starting out. I would just kind of let it happen and just see what surprises you.
Yeah, I mean, your style is just how you draw. Just draw. Just keep drawing. Soy Tenley says, in Procreate, your iPad version limits your layers. For instance, I have the iPad 7 and I'm limited to 27 layers. I think even less if I go higher resolution. That's true. Yeah. I think this is one of the biggest drawbacks of Procreate, in my opinion, is the limited layers and the limited space it provides, because it's an iPad. It's not a computer, but you know, it still works.
Yeah. I think it's more of a hardware issue than a software issue too. I feel like I've read that somewhere from the Procreate team, and hopefully, you know, things will get better. But you know, in those scenarios where I do run out of layers, what I'll do is I'll actually duplicate the file. I'll merge certain things, and then I'll just make it version 2, and then I'll just keep proceeding that way. Like for example, if I know the colors I'm going to use, I don't need an individual layer for every single one of those. Sometimes, like here's the layer for the hair, here's the layer for the skin, you know. So you could try that out.
Neil says, Kat, with sad Vince, how did you make sure that the purple reads as a shadow color instead of Vince just having purple colored skin? Do you mean the shadow like under his chin or just like his skin tone in general? Because I feel like with the shadow, since it's located like under his chin and his ear, on the side of his wrist, it reads as a shadow just because of where it's placed. Where it's placed shows where the light source is coming from, so people know that's a shadow, right? As for the skin tone, I mean, if you look at his skin, if I zoom in, that's just purple. But when you see it compared to like this really bright blue and this like yellow of a shirt, suddenly you're not quite sure, is that purple or is that skin color? And I feel like most people read it, oh, that's just skin color.
So weird saying same in all these different colors.
Emma says, Kat, for scanned in images, how do you separate the white background from the line work so that you can add color? Oh my gosh, actually, Jordan and I were like, we had a huge headache over this exact problem, because I know how to do it really fast in Photoshop, but we don't know how to do it really fast in Procreate just yet because we haven't researched it. But usually in Photoshop, I duplicate the layer. So I have the same image just in a duplicate layer. And then I go into the color channels on the right next to the layers. I press Command and I click on the red color channel. And that selects everything white. And then I delete that layer. I delete the white. So that's how you isolate the black and the white in Photoshop. And that's exactly what I did. I just saved it as a PNG and imported it into Procreate. But as for how to do that in Procreate, I don't know just yet. Maybe someone in the chat knows.
I want to point out something really quickly. I forgot to mention this. For those of you who are working on Procreate, one way you can choose color schemes, if you go up to your color palette up here, there's this little option that kind of looks like this, this 3-piece, triangle type thing. and you can choose color schemes based on whether you want it to be complementary, split complementary, analogous, etc. And you can just plug whatever color you want, and it'll automatically pick others for you. So that's another way you can try it.
Whoa. Okay. Since I'm like drawing on my own, I'm not really paying attention to what Jordan is doing or drawing. So I'm going to have to reference back to this like, to learn what Jordan's teaching right now.
It's all good, Kat.
Elizabeth says, Jordan, in your new job, do you work on your own iPad or were you provided some hardware?
Okay, so I can only speak of my experience. I had everything I needed already, so I was not provided with anything. But I imagine that if they really wanted someone to work, at their studio, that they would be willing to finance, some tools for them. Yeah, I'm not exactly sure the policy on every studio for that, because sometimes they do send a whole computer in. Just not me.
Mm-hmm.
This is starting to feel a little bit better now.
Ooh, nice. I like how you incorporated the orange highlights, which was very unwisely chosen by me.
Nah, it's fine. Yeah, and it was a good creative challenge. I would never put just this in my portfolio, but I think it's getting there. Like I could see how this could work. And part of the key was getting rid of all the blue tone things and just moving everything to a warmer warmer color. So I think that is what did it for this. But it was challenging. You give me a if I can get a couple more in before the stream ends, but let's see.
It's screen. No, I don't like that. Going back to normal.
Rachel VT Studio says, I think I've also heard that people's styles can change over time too. Yeah, that's 100% true. Just like someone's taste in music or food might change over the course of a period of time. It's just how life is. And if you were to look at any artist, from you see their work from the year 2000 to 2021, I'm sure there's a difference. They get better. They get new tastes. Some people just get bored of what they were doing, so they invent something new. There's a lot of room for play in that area.
Yeah, and honestly, I would be worried if you like lived all of your life and you never changed your style, because like, what if you nailed down a style when you're like at age, I don't know, 20 years old, right? And then for then on, you never change your style. I just think that doesn't make sense, and it's worrisome also. Like, you're not going to be growing as an artist if you just stay stagnant.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that can be tough because some people are hired specifically for their unique style. But, in which case, I guess you have to figure that out. But there's nothing wrong with changing things and developing and growing as an artist. I mean, I feel like that's the whole point of what we do. And I don't think there's anyone, of all the artists that I've talked to and met, I don't think any of them feel like they've reached completion. Like I have conquered the task of art. That doesn't happen. It's like even Prince, for example, he has like 30 albums that he's never released, like in some vault somewhere. And dude was like 57 and he played like 30 instruments or something like that. He has so much music, but I guarantee if he were alive today, he would not say I've mastered music. There's always something new to be created and heard, just like there is something new for drawing and painting.
Myra says, what are some questions that you can ask yourself to learn about your own characters? Ooh. I think I always think about my characters as they function in the story. So I always ask myself, who are they at the beginning of the story and who are they at the end of the story? And why is that change important? And that really informs who my characters are from then on. Like what kind of the kinds of integrity they have, how they act, their personalities and stuff like that. It all just sort of molds itself as it functions in my story as a whole. So that's my answer to that question. What about you, Jordan?
For me, I think backstory is huge. If you were to like for example, there's a reason why people are the way they are at this very moment. If you were to look at my life history and Kat's life history and Clara and all these, like, you would probably come to a conclusion and say, I get why they speak the way that they do, or they're interested in the things that they're interested in, etc. I even heard a quote one time that said, if we could see the life or the life of our enemies, they would cease to be our enemies that day. Because there's often a sympathy you can create, and they don't have to be a good character, but just figure out what makes them what makes them tick, because they often inspire a lot. I like this Reddit.
Anna says, webcomics are a great way to see how artists have grown and changed over time. Oh my gosh, I totally agree. There are so many webcomics I've read where the style just completely changes from the beginning to the end. And what's funny is that as you're reading, sometimes you don't really notice how dramatically it changes because the artist is changing little by little. And as you're reading, you just sort of absorb it and you don't notice the immediate change until you finish the webcomic, and then you come back to the beginning and you're like, whoa, you didn't draw so well in that time.
Yeah, I don't read a ton of comics, or especially webcomics, but one comic that I know changed styles a lot was Calvin and Hobbes. If you look at it from 1985 to 1995, there's a huge shift in the quality of drawing. And it still feels the same. It still has the same energy, but it's a totally different, result, I guess.
Rachel says, my best friend and I started asking each other questions about our characters. There's a lot to consider, and even if the stuff doesn't get in the story, it helps understand the character. That's a good point, because you can't include everything about your character. Like, what if Vince hates pepperoni pizza, right? He just hates pepperoni pizza. And that's really important to him and just his personality. But what if that doesn't have anything to do with the story? Am I going to include that detail that he hates pepperoni pizza? Probably not. I mean, maybe a little bit, but probably not, right?
I think there's so many things that you can put in and just not say anything too. Like if someone has a scar on them, like, you can just say, well, what caused them to get that scar? And maybe they don't answer it in the show, or the comic or whatever, but just something for you to think about. Like, there's a couple stories I can think of where they did something like that, where the audience is just left wondering how this result came to be. I feel like my character was like a Power Ranger all of a sudden because the bright yellow. Has Jordan had time to play Spider-Man Miles Morales yet? So yes, but I don't even have a PlayStation. I went over to my friend's house, and his son had the game. He's like, Jordan, we got to play Miles Morales. I was like, yes, we do. And so sat there and watched it download for like 2 hours and just waiting. And it was so much fun. And to be honest, even though I came from the game development department at my school, I hadn't actually sat down and played a game or PlayStation game since 2013. So it was a fun callback, but I had to relearn all the buttons.
I'm going to give Vince a really dramatic shadow here because I feel like I've been kind of tame about the light and shadow situations for these two.
I really like how you're doing this. I'm loving the green shadow a lot.
Thank you.
That's cool.
I'm loving your Power Ranger color combination. See, I feel like even though this doesn't quite work for your maybe overall story, I think it's good that you tried. And maybe you can apply this to something else that you can do later.
Yeah, colors is very important in the world I'm building. And so if anything else, this could inspire another character. I don't think Javen will ever dress like this. I think it's his style. I don't see him wearing bright yellow anytime soon, but you know, maybe someone else will. You never know. Our prof is asking, Jordan, how would you describe the color scheme of the Power Rangers, and why do you think those color schemes fit that show? I just said that because the bright yellow and white combination. I never actually watched Power Rangers. I don't know anything about it, but I do remember the outfits. And so I don't even know who wore the yellow one, Yellow Ranger.
The Yellow Ranger.
Well, I mean, like who that person was, is what I mean. You're like, Jordan, stop being so stupid. No, yeah, that's literally the only reason. It's so weird.
Jason says, I imported photo of self-portrait outline of me. I was able to fill in the space with color without needing to do any adjustments. Haha, so fun giving myself random colors. Yeah, it's fun to play around with colors.
It's the best. Ooh, that's interesting. Some dark things. Yeah, I don't know what I'm doing right now.
John Murph says, from experience, would you say that Procreate has more advantages than Photoshop? I think they're very different. I know they have a lot of similarities, but I would use Procreate for if I wanted to get things done faster, if I wanted to do that color drop tool that we just showed in the stream earlier. But I would use Photoshop to Photoshop photos, because Photoshop is meant for editing photos in the first place. And B, I would also use it for a lot of like file editing functions. Like I know how to write action scripts in Photoshop, and that's so helpful when you have like a bunch of comic pages that you need to edit and you just need to do the same action for each page. You can just write an action script and then bam, all of them are edited all at once. So I use Photoshop and Procreate for very different reasons. What about you, Jordan? I know you might have a preference for Procreate, I think, but what is your answer to John Murph's question?
Well, actually, I tend to use Photoshop a lot more when I'm at home. For one, I don't have to constantly charge the Apple Pencil or I'm sorry, the Wacom pen, and there are a lot more tools available. But I do like Procreate because most of what I need is on here. You know, the things that I have issue with are, we talked about limited space and layers and limited file size. You know, there's certain actions like Kat just brought up that you can't really do. So, you know, it really depends on what you're going for, because I also understand that everybody can pay, you know, however much money per month to get Photoshop. So Ayane, so those are like auto actions in Clip Studio Paint. Do they have auto actions in Clip Studio Paint?
I've never used Clip Studio Paint before, actually, so I don't know. Probably.
I mean, I have it, but I haven't used it as much. So I can't really say whether or not that's accurate.
Elizabeth says, Kat and Jordan, do you have a recommendation for a book that would support me learning about comics and how they are developed? Support me in teaching beginning drawing to kids who want to draw comics. Oh my gosh, you have to read How to Read Comics by Scott McCloud, for sure. And also How to Draw Comics. Like, he has 2 books. They're both pretty useful, but that's like the comics Bible to how to understand comics. It breaks down really complex ideas, first of all, in comic form, and second of all, it's really easy to digest. I mean, Scott McCloud is a great writer as well as a great artist. So that's my recommendation. Jordan, do you have a recommendation for a book on how to learn comics?
I honestly would have referred to you either way. But that's the exact book I have too. But I would also say that simply studying some of the top comics and top storytellers will tell you a lot of things too. Scott McCloud is definitely great for introducing you to stuff and helping you understand why certain decisions are made. But something that I do, even when it comes to like studying film, I don't really have any film classes under my resume. I didn't really take a film class necessarily, but I can study and figure out what these directors did and get into their minds. So don't underestimate just the power of your own research and learning that sort of stuff.
Mm. Okay, I like this color scheme for Vince. I think he looks properly angry.
Uh-oh. I actually reached my maximum amount of layers. I gotta start merging stuff now.
That's so many layers.
Yeah, well, I'm at 33. Well, part of it is because I grouped everything together, so we're just gonna have to merge stuff now. Yeah, we'll merge you. Oops. Maybe I should change this back. Oh, this feels better. Sometimes I underestimate the power of having a certain color in the background, like to balance everything out.
Mm.
I think that's something I was missing.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, my characters are just on a stark white background. I should probably give a base color for each of them. That's a good point, Jordan.
Something else I like to do, I just forgot about it, is if you're worried about colors and you feel like they feel out of sync or something like that, you can add an overlay layer and lower the opacity, give it like a certain color, and now everything has this blue to it. And I just toggle it on and off. You can kind of see the subtle difference. But yeah, that's something I do often.
Clara says, Kat, do you ever do what they do in movies? I think it's called color grading, where you tint a whole scene blue. Oh my gosh, yes, absolutely. Usually what I do is I just make a new layer. And then you said tint the whole thing blue, right? So let's just use blue. Oops. My gosh, whoops. Get rid of that reference. Don't need you. Okay. Make the whole thing blue. And then I change it to an overlay layer. There we go. So it affects all the colors underneath it, but the stark white it does not affect. But yes, it would normally just make the whole thing a tint of blue or a tint of whatever color I've chosen.
I'm really kind of liking this one, actually. Like, I just see this in a dark alley, just like, here comes this kid with some glowing shoulders all of a sudden. Like,
It'd be funny if it was like dancing towards you and snapping.
oh, like some of that West Side Story, just like, we're gonna do this.
Yeah.
Dance, that'd be funny. Let's see. Let's do the same thing here. How are we gonna tint this? I'm just gonna go on a color grading mapping spree and just see what happens. Ooh, that kind of looks cool. Yeah, purple, yellow, always wins.
Oh my gosh. I made a primary color scheme. I didn't mean to do that.
That's awesome, though.
Yellow, red, and blue. Maybe I should make this one purple. No, I liked it blue before. Fine, I'll just stick with primary colors.
Dang it. Shoot, where's the reference layer? I don't even know. Oh, okay. I feel like this is just such an experimental stream. Like, I feel like, at least for me, I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing, and I'm just hoping it works. You know?
Yeah.
Oh, that looks sick.
I feel like I achieved my goal of having 3 different moods with the colors. Oh, Ayane says, those variations in lighting look so effortless. Thank you, Ayane, if you're talking about me.
And thanks if you're talking about me. I have no idea.
Maybe really quickly, I will just give like normal Vince some like basic shading.
See, this is also where naming layers comes in handy because I'm starting to lose everything. But we don't really have time for all of that. But totally worth it, guys. You should do it.
Wrigglesworth says, I'm learning a ton from experimentation. Love it. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's just how you learn in general. Just experiment.
Yeah, the cool thing is like with this, it's not like you're ruining a piece forever, especially if you're doing it digitally. You know, it's like you got the undo, or you can make a new file and just try it out. And like it's very low risk and high reward. That's how this is set up.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe a different background color. You know, once upon a time, I actually did have the main colors for my character more red. And then people kept saying he looked like Miles Morales, and I got pissed off. And I was like, fine, I'm changing it.
I can see that. Yeah. I mean, just like people like to project what they've already consumed before. So, of course, they would project Miles Morales.
Yeah. It also just had to do with the timing. Like, I was designing him right when the movie came out.
Mm.
And you guys can literally go back in my Instagram like 6-7 years, and this same character looked very similar to how I drew him back then. I'm like, I had it first, and then Miles Morales came out, and he was super awesome.
Mm-hmm. You just can't be mad because it's good.
Mm-hmm. Can't be mad. And if I had $90 million, maybe I could handle it. I wonder what happens if I duplicate this chromatic layer and just, oh, dang it, I reached the maximum again. Okay, we're merging stuff now.
Oh, also, I guess I didn't explain this on the stream yet, but Vince, my character here, is one of my main characters for my antique store comic, which, you know, event like you guys are seeing Vince like a sneak peek before anyone else does. But I will eventually post this all on Instagram too. Oh, Ayane says, Jordan, I feel like when we draw black characters, oftentimes they get related to some other character, even if they look nothing like them, just because they're one of the few black characters they see.
Oh, I so agree with that. And that's when I was first designing this character, and I explained kind of my vision for it, people were like, just make sure it doesn't look like Black Panther. Your character looks like Miles Morales. And, you know, because it's kind of a superhero type of thing, and those two IPs are very, very popular. Intellectual properties, for those who don't know what IP is, like, you know, franchise. I think that's very true because no one mistakes Harry Potter and Frodo, even though they have very similar features if you just look at them. You know, they're both wearing robes, both got the same, you know, dark curly hair, you know, they live in the fantasy world that's kind of inspired by like medieval European stuff. So yeah, I think that that is something that comes across, especially for black characters, which is unfortunate, but you know, hopefully things will change in the future.
Hmm.
You know what this is starting to feel like to me though? Remember those old school like iPod commercials? where they would have where they'd have like the silhouette. It's not exactly like that, but I'm remembering that. Should give them little headphones.
I don't really remember that.
Oh, really? They had
Sorry.
Little ads where they would have they would be advertising the iPod. There you go. It's just headphones.
Probably someone in the chat will recognize what you're talking about.
Right. Exactly. So they haven't done it in a long time. So it's been a while. But anyway, guys, we're about to wrap up. But please do join us in the Art Prof Discord and the Art Alongs channel. We definitely want to see some of your artwork. So please post it there. And the link is in the YouTube description below. Please subscribe to the Art Prof YouTube channel. And we also want to say thank you to all of our Patreon supporters who have done an amazing job of keeping us going. We thank you all so much. You guys are amazing. And we will see you next time. Take care, everyone. Peace.